Hey guys, so in this video I'm going to be talking about how I mix the colors for the painting of the underbrush, the bushes, the trees, the background trees. Just the way that I applied my techniques with putting all these colors together, because as you can see that there's a lot of different hues, variations of chroma, value on here. So I'll be demonstrating how I integrated all these ideas onto the canvas. So let me demonstrate right now. Okay, so notice how the background has already been filled out with the paint, the previous colors. I had already mixed up the previous underlaying foundational colors, as you can see, with the greens, the grays, some of the browns. So I had already established that basic framework on there. So right now at this point the paint is dry, and now I'm stacking up on top of it some of the lighter, more detailed colors, the brighter parts, the brighter hues, brighter textures. I'm adding more of the chroma, a higher chroma level, higher intensity level on top of this pre-made foundation. But make no mistake though, this isn't the end part of my painting. I'm gonna add more colors on top of these once I'm done. This is just another layer. That's the thing about painting plants and making it have a lot of variety, is creating all these layers, stacking them on top of each other, and waiting for them to dry up. So over here you can see me painting those pink flowers, those green flowers in the back, and then now you see me here adding those darker spots on top of those lighter colors. So that's what I do. I go back and forth. I have these dark spots, dark patches of color, and then I add a little bit of light, and then once that light part dries up, I re-add some of those darker parts on there, and I just kind of like mix them together. I kind of reintegrate them together. So that's how I have all those various hues, textures, and chromas stacked on top of each other. And also I make a little bit of room to kind of see through that previous layer, so that way you could have it translucent, so that way you could actually see through some of that part, because I don't want to make it completely opaque. Otherwise it defeats the entire purpose of layering. When you layer, you want to have some of that part to be able to see through it. So that's what I'm doing over here. I'm being able to make these layers slightly visible on top of each other, so that way once I do have the finalized part, I can have the outermost part have the most vivid, bright colors and textures. So that's what you do. In the back over here I got some of the greens, a little bit more faded in the chroma value, because the background colors, of course, they're going to have that lesser intensity. So that's what I'm doing over here too. So that's what you do in the background. You have the lower intensity, the lower chroma level, and as you go forward, you're going to have the higher intensity, higher chroma level. Values, they're going to shift back and forth depending on what you want to do with the gradients, what you want to do with variations of how you want to put the plants and material in a three-dimensional aspect. Okay, so here is another example that I had used from my other video with the Kincaid's painting, the Dogwood Chapel painting. So over here I had the background pre-rendered already, as you can see, with some greens, a little bit of blues, some blacks. So that way it'll have that low chroma, low value type of background in order to be able to integrate a lot easier. So over here I am painting the background leaves of this dogwood tree. So I left the background slightly moistened together, so that way the paint will be able to integrate at a much more efficient level. It'll be able to mix a lot better. As you can see with those red bushes on there, I'm able to mix those whites on there a lot easier because it's already moistened together. So that's what you do with the background leaves. You integrate them with those background colors, integrate them with the backdrop, and also keep in mind, keep those brush strokes at a horizontal pace, because that way it'll help really simulate that that effect of the leaves. Because in nature you can have a lot of horizontal things with the way the leaves, the flowers come together. from our vantage point, they're going to be horizontal, not necessarily vertical all the time. So keep that in mind. So you can see me blending the edges together against that backdrop, because you don't leave them alone, because that would look silly and defeat the entire purpose of that pre-rendered wet background. So keep it moist and keep those edges as loose and as integrated as possible. So once you establish those white colors on it, or whatever color you desire to put on there, make sure to blend those edges together. That way it'll come out way better and a lot more integrated. So also keep that in mind, guys. So in this last example, I'm going to have an extra effect on here, which is going to be that light source coming from the bottom of the trees, that little bit of a foggy effect on there, if you could call it that. And this is another example from that Dogwood Chapel painting, the top left corner of the painting, with those trees with that obscure background. Over here you have a lot of light muted colors all around. Even after the finished product, the colors are going to be pretty much close to the original background color, but that's just because they're already in the background and they're going to have that lighter, less intense type of atmosphere to them, because they're gonna have to blend into the background a lot more efficiently. So in order to do that, I keep that background moist, that sky, that white, very slightly yellowish type of sky back there. I keep that moistened up so I'm able to integrate those greenish colors into the background. And once I establish them on there, I blend the edges together ever so carefully. And I do that all around with the trees. As you already noticed on the left side, I had already begun that previously. And so it's just it's very time consuming, so I actually went back and forth on it, took a little time off, and went back to it at another time, because I like to switch subjects a lot. That way I could maintain focus, keep my attention on there. And so with these pine trees on here, they have a lot of branches, a lot of different things poking out. So it's important to take the time to integrate all of those branches on there. You don't want to do a half-hearted job with just getting some of them. You want to make an effort to get all of them on there. And with me, I use a medium-sized brush all around with it, so that way I could get as much accuracy as possible. I think some artists would use a fan brush to save time, have that wider angle on there in order to get more done in a lesser time. But I'm a lot more OCD with my type of painting, so I want to get everything done as precisely as possible. But that's just me. So over here, I got a little bit of a darker spot on that tree I'm trying to integrate on there. And of course, that's going to be blended also. So it's a lot of layering, a lot of blending. The colors are still pretty uniform. You got that dark pine type of green. So what I did was I had some green mixed with some gray, a little bit of white on the palette board, in order to have that very low chroma type of intensity on there that will just fit perfectly into the background. And then in my convenience, I'll add that lighter part, that gradient part, that foggy effect coming from the bottom of it, and I'll begin to blend that at a later time. But over here, I'm still blending with the sides, blending those branches together, making sure that they match the rest of the tree. That's the thing about you have a little bit of creativity, creative freedom with these type of trees, because that background, it doesn't have to be precisely matching the branches up front, because it is going to be very obscured by everything else that you stack on top of it. So you have that little bit of freedom that you're able to have some variety, some diversity in the colors. So you could have like that the bluish type of green in the background if you want to, and then you could add some more yellowish type of green on top of it, just for some variety, because you don't want to have too much of the same thing on there. Otherwise, it'll look really boring. That's a challenge of painting these trees. You don't want to make it look too boring, because that's the tendency that happens when you paint these type of background things. But keep that in mind. These are going to be equally as important as painting anything else on the canvas, because the way you do anything is the way you do everything. So make sure to do a good professional job on every single part of the painting, including these obscure parts in the background. So don't forget to do a good job with these. Make sure to take your time, mix the edges on there, match them as best as you can, and try to have some diversity in the colors, regardless of the constraints that you have with that type of a monochromatic background that it tries to enforce on you. So thank you for watching, guys. Thank you for watching this video. Please hit the like button, because that's the only way to get my videos at a higher algorithm, at a higher likelihood of being watched. So make sure to do that. Subscribe to my channel for more tips like this video. So peace.